Hi and welcome to this chapter where we'll look at the alternative against sixth move bishop e2, e5, knight b3, and the bishop e6 on move 7. A very interesting line arises after moves e4, c5, knight f3, d6, g4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop e2, e5, knight b3, and here the move bishop e6. I had touched upon this move briefly in the previous chapter where I discussed bishop e7, the main line. And now this move is known to be somewhat inaccurate. I remember once I played it as a kid, sort of by mistake, by ignorance. You sometimes play bishop e6 against the bishop e3, e5, knight b3, or I wanted to develop both my bishops. I just picked one from c8 first. And I was told that it was not accurate because of a strong reply f4. But when I've later checked it with the modern computers and analyzed it a little deeper, it turned out that, well, indeed, it allows f4, which is quite a principled option. The point, of course, as we know, is that we don't want to take on f4, allow white to recapture in one go from c1. And we also are quite concerned about the push f5. But as it turned out, this f5 push is not so clear, even with an extra tempo on the e6 bishop. So it seems this line is quite playable, and it's actually an interesting surprise weapon, especially if your opponent plays the bishop e3, queen d3 line against bishop e7, which is sort of the modern main line. This one against this line, it works quite interestingly, and very much especially if your opponent likes bishop g5 line. I mean, I'm not sure you should avoid bishop g5 line in general, but I am sure it's a very good idea to confuse your opponent, especially those who play this line a lot, and there are such people. If you play bishop e6 here, then you take them completely off guard, and they really don't have any way to get back into their comfort zone because of the bishop g5. We have knight b to d7. Do note that after 7 knight f3, bishop e6 here is not possible because of knight g5. It's not very good. So here we have to play bishop e7. So don't confuse these two things. But I guess knight b3, bishop e6 are very interesting. So let's look at that. Let's look at all the logical options one by one. 8 bishop e3 is sensible. White is trying to get to this bishop e3 variation after all. Here we play knight b d7. And now white has two attempts to transpose to the same bishop e3 line as against bishop e7. He can either try queen d3, but now we have a very strong idea rook c8. Bishop e7 will transpose, but rook c8 is very clever and anticipates knight d5. And now after bishop d5 ed, we have knight b6. This cunning idea that we have seen this motif already in different variations, but here it works extremely well. So this is one of the main points behind black's idea. After castle first, bishop e7, queen d3. Now we also go rook c8 again. And knight d5, we have bishop d5 ed, knight b6. A very nice positional trap. Here, if white takes with the bishop, as I spoke a few times about this position, very good for black, just very good for black. The dark square control is tremendous for play on the king side and also for the queen side. Our bishop is just much stronger than the white bishop. So 8 bishop e3 with idea queen d3 is off the table. If white castles, which is very sensible. Now here we have two options. We can play bishop e7. This can be reached also with bishop e7, castle, bishop e6. Or we can even try to play knight b d7. Now, if we play queen d3, we transpose to 8 queen d3, which is something we will look at later. But first, let's look at f4. Now here we have to address the f5 threat. We can play queen c7, idea f5, bishop c4. And the same idea also rook c8. So with queen c7, the white has g4. Interesting idea h6, g5. Knight h7 is the strong reply after f5, bishop c4. A very unclear position. We are slightly on the playful side here, slightly on the dubious side. But the computer is still claiming it's very playable. Instead of queen c7, you can also play rook c8. And after f5, bishop c4. bishop c4, rook c4 is a very unclear position. White has probably a decent version of positions like that we saw, but still it's pretty hard for white to play, and g4, g5 is not happening just yet. Because it weakens white king tremendously now. So e4 is sort of hanging in these positions. So knight b7, f4, especially rook c8, very sensible. Yeah, this queen c7 I would double check again. Looks to me rather dubious, but I checked the stuff with good engines, so certainly playable as well. Castle would also play bishop 7 again. Bishop e3, knight bd7 is what we have. We looked at it through the other order. Now queen d3, we have rook c8 again. Knight d5 takes knight b6. If queen d3 first, here we have now if knight bd7, white does get knight d5, I believe. So here we have an extra option, knight c6, and knight b4 is an idea. In a3 we have d5, ed knight d5, knight d5, queen d5. We have broken through in the center, and after queen g3 in castle, and black's pretty fine. After rook d1, the queen can escape to e4, and after bishop d3 to g4, and the queen trade will lead to a roughly equal endgame. Some extra options here. Yeah, and if white plays 9 f4, then we will examine this through the different move order with 8 f4. If white starts with 8 queen d3, we play knight bd7. Yeah, here we have another idea. I like this very subtle move order trickery. Fascinates me quite a bit. If knight d5 now, I take with the bishop ed, and suddenly I go g6, bishop g7. So another surprising way of using delay of the bishop e7 move. Bishop on g7, of course, is great. Even with bishop on e7, we often wanted to play rook to e8, and remember rook to e8, bishop to f8, and bishop to g7. So here we do it right away, which is huge. And also after 9 castle first, here we can also play rook c8 first, and after knight d5, then take with the bishop ed, and then go g6. In this particular position with bishop on f8, knight b6 is a bit too much, a little bit dangerous with the bishop not on e3 yet. This pawn is not even really hanging. G6 is very good though, developing the bishop to g7. And yes, I mentioned bishop g5 has no point because knight b7. So really the most principled way is f4, bishop e7. Now white can choose between castle, f5 or g4. G4 doesn't work as well as white would wish. We have to play well though. We take on 4, bishop f4, knight c6, g5, knight d7. And now if white were in time to go, let's say, queen to d2 and then castle long, it would be quite dangerous because white got this, g4, g5 all in one go. But we have a very strong resource, h6. After g takes h6, bishop h4 check, king d1, g takes h6. The king on d1 is tremendously misplaced, and we have a huge dark square control. And yeah, as I mentioned with the king uncastled, not so much the king safety issue here, but the rook on a1. What is the rook doing here is the big question. And the same after 12 h4, also h6 is a problem, and gh, that is again bishop takes h4. So white is not a time to consolidate with a g4, because of that. Instead, he should go g4 or f5 or castle. If castle, we castle. Yeah, the main theoretical move here, because it arises from different line, black is trying to prepare bishop c4 with queen c7, but that is not how I want to play. I want to, in fact, let f5 happen, and after that, drop the bishop back to d7, and then regroup and start counterplay against the weakened e4 pawn. So I don't play queen c7, I play just castle. Well, I play, you play, we play. Here there are two options: king h1 first, very testing, and f5. F5 obviously principled. If f5, bishop d7. We transfer this bishop to c6. g4, we play bishop c6 first, bishop f3. Or queen d3 also possible, then we go h6. h4, we have knight h7. So white doesn't really manage this h4, g5 pawn storm, even if we give him a tempo on f5. And bishop f3 is the same, we go h6. Now white can open the position with g5. And after hg, bishop g5, a very, very strong idea. Not the only idea, but a very strong idea. King h7, very instructive, intending king h1 now, rook h8, after rook g1, king to g8 back. And this is one of these cases when we actually uncastled, because as I already mentioned before, point of the castle is to get the rook into the game, but here the rook is in fact much better in the game on the h file. So we did an artificial uncastling here. Very nice maneuver. 10 king h1 is clever. Now it is as though, if you studied the bishop e7 line, it's as though after knight b3, bishop e7, castle, king h1, we fell into the trap, went bishop e6, and white went f4. So this is not ideal. As you remember there, just to remind you, after king h1, we went knight c6, f4, rook e8. So, of course, bishop e6 is not ideal, but still, even if we fall for it, it turned out it's not so clear. We play rook e8 here as well. And after f5, we play bishop d7. Yeah, as I mentioned, ef4 is not ideal. It's, of course, possible, but it's not ideal here. White takes, and I believe queen e1, rook d1, put some pressure on the d6 pawn. So we go rook e8 instead. The main move, according to the games, is queen c7. It's very bad. White goes f5, bishop c4, and g4 just rolls over. Especially with king on h1 and on the g file, the rook will come to g1. It's just very bad. So rook e8 is what we play. I mean, just to demonstrate, just briefly, because it is important. Here we don't play queen c7 because f5, bishop c4, g4, and then after h6, rook g1 will be there. After g5 takes, and on the g file, bad things will happen here in the bad version. Here, of course, after immediate f5, we had bishop d7, so it was very different. Yeah, so 10 king h1, rook e8, we play strong waiting move f5, now bishop d7. If white plays bishop g5, bishop c6, bishop f6, bishop f6, he gets some d5 square control, but we have this dark squared bishop. Bishop comes to g5. It's pointed out here, pretty good, pretty decent for black. The knight from b8 can sometimes get transferred to f6, where it will be very well located, fighting for that same d5 square. Instead of bishop g5, g4, of course, very principled. Now we play bishop c6, bishop f3, h6. And again, h4, we have this knight h7 resource always. So white cannot just steamroll us with his pawns. So we have knight h7. And if white tries to go g5, which is here very dangerous, we have a forced solution. We take hg, bishop g5, and now knight takes e4. A tactic, bishop e7, knight c3 is the point. Both queens are hanging. And if white takes with bishop takes e4, we take bishop g5, and after rook g1, we play very precise. We go bishop e3. We need to move our bishop from the g file with the tempo. If rook g3, we go also bishop f4 with the tempo again. And next we bring the knight to f6, white d7, and after rook g2, the same knight d7. Knight comes to f6, and if white goes for our pawns, bishop c6, b6, queen d6, he clearly got distracted from the king side a long time ago. Bishop on e3 protected the g pawn, the g1 square, sorry. So now we go knight f6, white takes on c6. He already got totally distracted from his main objective, which was a king side. Now we are the ones with a safer king. The king on h1 is not dangerous. I mean, it's not weak in the short run because it's okay on h1, but it's just weak in the long run. It's just not a good king. He doesn't have a g2 pawn in front of it. After e4, we have very strong e pawn, and even after rook e1, queen b6, even in the endgame, bishop b6, black has a marvelous compensation. f5 pawn is weak. After rook comes to e5, we have control of all crucial squares. This extra pawn on the queen side is not going anywhere. The knights are not very good, and e4 pawn or potentially e3 pawn is very, very strong. It is, of course, concrete and demands strong play, knight e4, and then bishop g5, bishop e3. But this is the price you pay for playing the slightly risky bishop e6 move. After knight f5, which is basically the most straightforward, so f4, bishop e7, f5, we go bishop d7 once again. Excuse me. Again, two options here for white. Bishop g5 or g4, two ways of trying to gain control over the d5 square. Bishop g5, not so dangerous. We gain the dark squared bishop after bishop d6 takes and takes. Now white can try to establish the bishop on d5 with bishop c4. We go castle, bishop d5, and bishop g5. We activate our dark square bishop, bring the knight by d7 to f6. Pretty harmonious setup, pretty fine for black. F12, queen d3. We also go bishop g5. It's important to stop the long castle. If white castle is long, he will have easier job pushing the queens and the king side. These pawns, now it's hard to push them. King on e1. Knight d2. White is trying to castle long after all. And here black has two options. Knight d7 is what I recommend. b5 led to equality in a correspondent game, so it also works. B5, white went long castle, black developed, knight d7, queen e6, black went queen f6. Proposed an endgame pawn down, but very fine after queen a3, queen e7, queen e7, king e7, king b1, even bishop d2, giving up the bishop pair, rook d2, knight f6, and after bishop d3, we got this interesting endgame. In the correspondent game, black pieces are attacking the e4 pawn, white pieces are defending, and the majority on the queen side, this 3 against 2 is not really felt. White's not pushing anywhere, and black actually very easily held this with rook h8, rook e1, b4, knight d1, a5. Majority completely not felt here. So b5 was fine, really full compensation for the pawn. Knight d7, 13 also very fine. Now with queen d6, bishop e7, queen d3, bishop g5. Black could also play after queen d6 also with h5 for rook h6 if he doesn't want to repeat. But okay, in terms of theoretical equality, yeah, bishop d7, bishop g5 is there. Now white goes long castle, and here with knight c5 we get rid of this queen, and we want to castle short after queen g3. And in the end game again we have a very good compensation. Here it's even much better because we have the knight pinned in a very unpleasant way. At queen g3 castle, black has full compensation. e4 pawn is weak, and c file is up for grabs. Rook c8, knight a4 is incoming with lots of counterplay. So in fact, two ways here, knight d7 and b5 both worked out for black. Bishop g5 not too critical. G4 is of course critical. Now we play h6, h4, bishop c6, hitting e4 pawn, bishop f3, defending it, and now knight h7. And here white has the move g5, using the fact that rook on h1 is going to pin the knight on h7, but it seems all right after we take on g5, h5, bishop g5, queen g5. White can play king d2. The king is sort of safe on e2 for now. The knight is somewhat pinned, but we are fine. We can go knight d7, queen d3, castle long. The rooks are connected, and black is doing quite fine. So besides the fact that after f5, bishop d7, be it here or with castles included, the position looks a little bit odd, and it feels a little bit dubious to have played bishop e6, allowed f5 and drop to d7. In terms of real issues, that doesn't seem to be such from what I have looked at. Now just scrolling through the lines that I've shown you, yeah, I think it all looked pretty good. Of course, it's all also well checked with the strongest computers. So yeah, I believe bishop e6 is a very interesting move. 3 reasons to play it. Reason 1, to avoid queen d3, knight d5 setup, or to get these extra options. Remember this knight b6 idea, or like here, this g6 idea. Also very good against players who play bishop g5 and bishop takes f6. And the third reason, also just to provoke your opponent. Some might know or figure out that f4 is the way, but then, well, once they land in these complications, they will try to punish us with f5, g4. But you know, if they don't know these lines, they could easily get out of hand for white. Especially, as you know, one of the most the hardest, most unfortunate situations to be in is when you are trying to punish someone who cannot be punished. And I think putting our opponent in this situation is a very good idea. So yeah, I think bishop e2 is a very popular line. So I think with 2 weapons you are well equipped for it now. And yeah, thank you for watching, and see you in the next chapter.